children, welcome to Harleen Ma'am's class. Today, grade 7, images, chapter 3. And as the title of the chapter goes, The Boy with a Catapult. Yes, I'm sitting in senior study and I just made a catapult. What is this? A gulale. Yes, you got it right, boys. Alright, chapter 3. Children, this is a story about a young boy like you who loves hunting birds and, catching the insects by his bare hands, squashing them, playing with them, and throwing all the eggs from the nest. He's a hunter and he's going to change into a protector. Let's read the story to see what follows. We first do the connect, imagine, and reflect part. Now, children, sometimes when we are very naughty, we can do things that hurt the other person. Could you just share with us an incident where you're very naughty and you hurt somebody, or maybe hurt by somebody? Think about it. I'm sure sometimes we do it intentionally to be mean and nasty or take back a revenge. Sometimes unintentionally also we tend to hurt people, right? We move on to the reflect part. When do you think a hunter becomes a protector? Think of a few situations where this can happen. How would the thoughts and feelings of a hunter be different from those of the hunted? Write them in 2 columns. Write down how a hunter would think and what comes to the mind of the prey which is being hunted. Just write them down in your notebooks. Now, I want all of you to close your eyes and imagine if you were an animal being hunted for fun and excitement and you wanted to plead for mercy, for forgiveness. How would you put across your request to the hunter? You can write it in the form of a letter or a poem appealing for mercy and change of heart from the hunter's point. Alright, you can illustrate it, you can draw it in your notebooks. That'll be wonderful. Alright, there's going to be a lot of vocabulary words, difficult words. So keep your pencils ready and keep writing them down. You had a discussion on what makes a hunter become a protector. Now let's read the story to find out how a hunter, this young boy who loves hunting, he changed his ways. Should we start, everybody? Chapter 3, The Boy with a Catapult. Children, this is a story, an extract from Bhisham Saini. He was a Hindi writer, playwright and an actor and was famous for his novel and television screenplay Tamas, a powerful and passionate account of the partition of India. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan for literature in 1998. So we'll start. This story is written from the narrator's point of view. Our class at school had an odd assortment of boys, but the oddest boy in the school was Bodhraj. We were all afraid of him. If he pinched anyone's arm, the arm would swell up as if it were a snake bite. He was utterly callous. He would catch a wasp with his bare fingers, pull out the sting of the wasp, tie it with a thread and fly it like a kite. He would pounce on a butterfly sitting on a flower and crush it between the fingers, or else he would stick a pin in it and through it he would pin it in his notebook. Oh my God, what an insensitive boy. Have you ever done that? I see you running around in the school catching butterflies, all of you, so don't. Yes, I know it. But do you have you ever tried taking a wasp and taking out the sting? Don't even try it. Not at all. So we are talking about the narrator's story. He says in our class we had different assortments, different types of boys. Some were kind, some were soft, some were gentle, some were big, and some were callous, insensitive. And the oddest boy, who was the odd one out, was a boy called Bodhraj. Yes, a boy called Bodhraj, and we were all very afraid of him. He sounds like a bully. Don't ever get bullied, alright? Stand up. And who bullies? The weak bully. The strong never bullies. And this boy was utterly, absolutely callous, insensitive. If he pinched somebody, it seems as if वहाँ snake bite हो गया है. And sometimes, you know what he did? He would catch a wasp, and he'll take out the sting, and he would tie a string and fly it around like a kite. And what did he do with the butterflies? He would swash them like this, and he would crush it and pin it up in his notebook. Oh my God, I already got goosebumps of him doing that. Don't ever do such things, children. It was said that if a scorpion stung Bodhraj, the scorpion would fall dead. Imagine, it was believed that Bodhraj was so full of venom, he was so full of poison. What would happen? A scorpion would, if it stings him, nothing will happen to Bodhraj. The scorpion will just fall. Bodhraj's blood was believed to be so full of venom, that's poison, that even a snake bite had no effect on him. He always had a catapult in his hand. Now you know why he has a catapult in his hand? Attacking the nests, attacking the birds. Yes, that's what he was doing. He always had a catapult in his hand, and he had an excellent shot. Wherever he aimed, he got it. His favorite target, of course, were birds. He would stand under a tree, take an aim, and the next moment, the birds' cries would render the air, and the fluff of the feathers of the birds float down. Or else he would climb up the tree, take away the eggs, and destroy the nest. What a horrible boy! Callous, insensitive. Can you see it in the picture? Render, children. Out here, render, to provide, to give. Alright? He was vindictive. He was vindictive and took pleasure in hurting others. Oh my God, imagine you hurt somebody and you feel good about it. What a nasty boy. He was vindictive. He had a desire to hurt, and it would give him pleasure. All the boys were scared of him. Even I would be scared of such boys. I would set them right. Even his mother called him a Rakshas. Imagine your mother calling you Rakshas. Oh, good heavens. His pockets bulged with strange things. You know what he had in his pockets? And they bulged, they protruded out, they came out, they bulged out with strange things. What do you think he had in his pockets? Candies? No. Chocolates and lollipops? No. He had a live parrot. He had an assortment of eggs. Or a prickly hedgehog. Hedgehog, that pointed in, animal. If Bodhraj quarreled, fought with anyone, he would charge at him like a head-on bull and viciously, brutally kick and bite him. After school, he would return home. Everybody else would go home, but where do you think Bodhraj went? Bodhraj would be off wandering around somewhere, roaming about somewhere, maybe trying to get some birds or some nest and throw some eggs around and catch some insects. We move on further. My father, that is the narrator's father, was given a promotion in his job, and they moved to the outskirts of the city. Like we are in Sandhwa, outskirts of the city, Kotkapura. He was given a large bungalow. It was an old style bungalow on the outskirts, outside the city. It had brick floors, high walls, and a slanting roof, and a garden full of trees and shrubs. Though very comfortable, it seemed rather empty and big. And being far away from the city, my friends seldom came to visit me. So that this story from the narrator's point of view, the narrator is saying his father got a promotion and he moved out of the city, out of the town, outskirts. Although it was a very huge bungalow with lots of garden and trees and shrubs around, but his friends did not come to see him. Who do you think is the only exception there? Who would love going there? Bodhraj. The only exception was Bodhraj. He found it a good hunting ground. Why would Bodhraj want to visit the narrator? Because he knew there were lots of trees and shrubs, and I'm sure there must be lots of little animals and birds around. The trees had many nests. There were monkeys also there. They roamed about under the bushes, lived a pair of mongoose. Behind the house, there was a big room where my mother stored some extra luggage. The narrator says there was a storeroom at the big room, so it was used as a store. This room had become a haunt of pigeons. Haunt, your place where you like to hang around. So who like to hang around here? The pigeons. You could hear them cooing all day long. Near the broken glass of the ventilator, there was a Maina's nest. So in this store, there was a Maina. You've seen the Maina. There are lots of Mainas in the senior study. It's that brown bird with a little white here. The floor of the room was littered with feathers, bird droppings. I hope you all know what bird droppings are. Broken eggs and bits of straws from the nest. My mother did not approve of my friendship with Bodhraj, but she realized that I was lonely and needed company. Whose mother? The narrator's mother. Narrator's mother did not want Bodhraj coming there. She knew he was a very callous and insensitive boy, but she realized that the narrator was all by himself, so she gives him. One day my mother said to me, if your friend is so fond of destroying nests, tell him to come and clean our storeroom. The birds have made it very, very filthy. Another word for filthy, children? Dirty. I protested, I did not agree with that. I protested, I disagreed, and I said, you said it's cruel to destroy nests, mother, and now you want to call my friend to do that? I didn't suggest that he should shoot and kill the birds, the mother says. He can just remove the nest without harming them. The next time Bodhraj came, I took him to the go down. Who is I here? The narrator. So Bodhraj comes and they go to that go down, the storeroom. It was a dark and smelly, as though we had entered an animal's lair, an animal's home, like a den. I confess, I was somewhat worried. Why was the narrator worried? What does he confess? He admits he was worried. Because if Bodhraj, true to his nature, to his form, he would destroy the nest, he would pull out the bird's feathers and break the eggs. And that's his nature. That's what narrator has seen him do all his school days. So he was very worried. Bodhraj had brought with him, of course, he had got his favorite catapult. He studied the position of the nest under the roof, near the ventilator, the opening we have between the ceiling and the roof, at the corner, the ventilator. It's also a skylight sometimes. Near the ventilator was a Maina's nest. I could see bits of cotton wool and rag hanging out. Some pigeons strutted up and down the beam, cooing to one another. You strutter. What do the pigeons do when you walk in a very proud manner? So you see the pigeon walk with his head and chin up high, he strutted up and down. So we know there are Mainas in the go down. We know there are pigeons there because they were cooing. The Maina's little ones are up there, said Bodhraj, aiming his catapult. He says, all right, my dear friend, I think I've got the nest. They are right there. I noticed two tiny yellow beaks peeping out of the nest. Look, Bodhraj exclaimed, this is a Ganga Maina. It isn't usually found in these areas. Now children, there's a very important line here. This is a Ganga Maina. This shows how much of a callous and nasty and a bully or a hunter he was. He had great knowledge about birds. So you can mark this line as a first point where we get to know that he had great knowledge about birds. He knew particularly this was the Ganga Maina because they were not easily found in the region where the narrator and Bodhraj are. Where are the parents? I asked. They must have gone in search of food. They'll be back soon. Next, very important, second point where we get to know he has great knowledge again about the birds. He knows if they're not here, only the chicks are here, they've gone to get some food. Bodhraj raised his catapult. I wanted to stop him, but before I could open my mouth, there was a whizzing sound and then a loud clang as the pebble hit the iron sheet of the roof. the two tiny beaks vanished. They vanished, disappeared. The cooing and the tittering ceased. Ceased, stopped. It seemed as if all the birds had been frightened into silence. Bodhraj took his catapult, he aimed at the nest, and the pebble went cling on the iron roof of the godown, and after the tittering and the sounds, everything stopped, ceased. Bodhraj let fly another pebble. He takes his catapult. Should we try doing one? Okay, I'll just take a sharpener and go. Woo! Oh, I couldn't do that. Sorry, not good at that. Okay, so he lets out another pebble. This time it struck a beam. You know what are beams? Yes, on the ceiling, on the roof, the beam. And what happened? The beam. This time it struck a beam. Bodhraj was proud of his aim, but he had missed his target twice and was very angry with himself. Why was he angry? Because he had missed the target twice and he was an excellent shot. When the chicks peeped over the rim of the nest. What is a rim, children? The rim, I'll get you my coffee mug, the rim, the outer part of this, the rim. So they came out of the little nest and they just peeped. How cute that sight must be. Would you have ever wanted to do that? Oh, not at all. Let's read on further to see how he changes into a protector. Bodhraj had a third try at the nest. I hope he doesn't do it. This time the pebble hit the side of the nest and a few straws and bits of cotton wool fell. But the nest was not dislodged. From one place to the other, it did not drop. Bodhraj lifted his catapult again. Oh my God, this boy is not giving up. Suddenly, a large shadow flitted across the room, blocking the light from the ventilator. Startled, puzzled, Leo looked up, looking down at us menacingly. Threatening way was a large kite with its wings outstretched. The kite, the bird, is here. A big bird, the kite. You all know what a kite is. You can see it, the picture on page number 19. The Mena chicks began fluttering the wings and shrieking loudly. What would the kite do? The kite left the ventilator and perched. The birds perched themselves on a branch, sat on a rafter. It had folded back its wings. It shook its craggy neck. Mine is actually looking craggy? Okay, craggy neck. That means a rough, uneven neck. And peered, looked through, right and then to the left. That is a kite, trying to see the prey and what to attack. I think this line tells us that the kite had visited this godown earlier also. The birds' frightened cries filled the air. The kite has been coming here every day, said Bodhraj. That is your point 3 to be noted, where we know he has a great knowledge about birds. The kite, he tells the narrator, is visiting this place pretty often. I realized why broken wings, straw and bits of bird flesh littered the floor. The kite must have ravaged the nest often. The narrator says, yes, I think Bodhraj is right. No wonder. I see bits of cotton wool, basically things from the nest, and sometimes even a piece of flesh. The kite must have tried to attack these chicks, yes, sometime earlier also. Bodhraj had not taken his eyes off the kite, which was slowly moving towards the nest. The cries became shriller. The chicks are shouting a shrill voice. I was a bundle of nerves. What do you mean by a bundle of nerves? It's a saying, yes, please underline that. I was a bundle of nerves. I was very, very nervous. Bodhraj raised his catapult. And now, guess where he aims? At the chicks? No, at the kite. He aims at the kite. This point, when he sees the kite, attacking the little chicks, Bodhraj changes. The change comes here. From a hunter to a protector. What do you think he's going to do next? Yes, he is going to save the little chicks from the kite. Let's go on to read what's happened next. Don't hit the kite. It will attack you. He even knew that the kite will attack the narrator if you try to hit. I shouted. Don't hit the kite, it will attack you, I shouted. But Bodhraj paid no attention. The pebble missed the kite and hit the ceiling. The kite spread its wings wide and again peered, looked down. Let's get out of here, I said, frightened. This shows the narrator is really nervous, very frightened. He's not brave at all. I'm sure Bodhraj has been killing insects and birds and all. He's very brave here, courageous boy. The kite will eat up the little ones. This sounded rather strange coming from Bodhraj. Why strange? Because he's a hunter. He himself has been doing that. But when he sees the kite attacking the little chicks, he has a change of mind. He becomes a protector. He knows that if he doesn't save those two little chicks, Maina's chicks, the kite will swallow them up. Bodhraj aimed again at the kite now. The kite left the rafter, spreading its wings, flew in a semicircle, alighted on a beam. The chicks continued to scream. They are just screaming and shrills there. Bodhraj handed me the catapult. Imagine he gives a catapult to his friend, the narrator, and he says, okay, now, what do you think he's going to tell him? He's going to tell him to keep hitting at the kite and not let the kite perch on any rafter or a beam, and he is going to go and very gently, tenderly, he's going to save the nest with the chicks inside. He says, aim at the kite, go on hitting it, don't let it sit down. He instructed the narrator. Then he ran. Who is he here? Bodhraj pulled up a table, standing against the wall in the middle of the room. I didn't know how to use a catapult. I tried once, but the kite had left the beam and flown to another one. Bodhraj brought the table right under the Maina's nest. Then he picked up a broken chair and placed it on the table. He had to be higher, he cannot reach the roof. He climbed on the chair, gently he lifted the nest and slowly he stepped down. Let's get out of here, he said, and ran towards the door. I followed. I, the narrator. We went into the garage. It had only one door and a small window in the back wall. The kite cannot get in here, he said. And climbing on to a box, he placed the nest gently near the beam. Do you think they just left from there? No. Another point to be noted, he knew that the birds have been, for a long time the birds have been very nervous, they are, troubled. So he waits and then he gives them water. The Maina's young had quietened down. Quietened? They kept quiet. They were more at ease. They knew they had been saved. Standing on the box, Bodhraj peeped into the nest. I thought he would pick them up and put them in his pocket like he usually does. The narrator is saying, even I thought, first time when I read this chapter, maybe he will do it. Yes? No. But then that's not justice, a hunter to a protector. The narrator thought that he's going to take the chicks and put them in his pocket. But after looking at them for a long time, he said, bring some water, the chicks are thirsty. We will put it drop by drop into their mouths. He even waited to see, he knew it, that they must be thirsty after all the shrills. So he gives them some water. I brought a glass of water. Both the chicks' beaks were open and they were panting. This is panting. Bodhraj fed them with drops of water and he told the narrator not to touch the birds. This is a high order thinking question, children. Please mark this. It's not written anywhere in the story. Who will tell me that he told the narrator not to touch the chicks? It's not mentioned in the book. Yes, you're right, my dear children. If a human being touches the chicks, then the parents of the chicks, the birds, abandon, they leave the chicks. They desert them, they leave them. They can smell the human touch. Crazy, right? How will their parents know they are here? I asked. Now, this was the fourth point where I told you to underline. He told me not to touch them, nor did he touch the chicks himself. Please mark this at the fourth point, knowledge of birds. He knew that if the birds, chicks or eggs are touched by a human hand, a human touch is there, then the birds abandon their little ones. So that was the fourth point. And now the narrator is saying, but we have dislodged them from the nest, right? So how will the parents come? Naina is going to come back with the whatever search of food they had gone for. How will their parents know they are here? They will look for them. There you go, the last point there, the fifth one. He says, well, don't worry, birds are very, very, very smart, and they will look for the little chicks around and they will find them. Just like we will find all of you if you ever get lost, God forbid. We stayed in the garage for a long time. Now, the ending. When Bodhraj came the next day to the narrator's house, he did not have a catapult, nor did he have any pebbles. What did he have in his hand? Guess anyone without looking there. He carried a bag of seeds. We fed the Mena's young chicks and spent hours watching their antics. You know, the little funny things they keep doing, the tricks. They started finding that. I hope you all enjoyed the chapter as much as I enjoyed explaining it to you. So, moral of the story is? What is the moral of the story? Anyone? It is wrong to judge a person by his or her appearances or sometimes the behavior. At the time of distress, when the kite was attacking the birds, Bodhraj turned into a protector. The same Bodhraj. For fun he was doing all that. You also do funny. For fun you catch the butterflies. You don't really think, I'm hurting them or what am I doing? But don't intentionally do this. So, yes, the inherent nature of a person, inherent, which you are born with, that nature, your true nature will come out, is revealed when there are situations, when you're in a crisis, when a situation arises, tab aapka true nature, you get to know about the true nature of a person. So it's wrong to judge a person by his or her appearance or behavior. I hope you all enjoyed it and think about it, and see you soon for the next chapter. I love you all. Take care and be strong. Alright, we're going to fight this. Take care, children. Bye-bye.